Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining the EDC Coffee Chat this morning. We're excited to have Kiewit on board with us, Dennis Ale. He is the small business, you'll have to say exactly your title for us, Dennis, but he works with Kiewit, which is one of the largest construction companies in the world, and they have gotten the contract for a bunch of the work in our area on the Olympic Peninsula, taking care of the fish passage projects. So he has a requirement to be hiring local small businesses, and he's going to be talking about that today. A few housekeeping items. If you'll keep yourself on mute so we don't inadvertently pick up any background noise, that would be great. And if you have any questions, please put them into the chat, or if you prefer, which I prefer, raise your hand and ask your question, and so that Dennis can go ahead and answer that. We like this to be fairly interactive. So if you have any questions or thoughts, just go ahead and raise your hand, and when there's an opportunity, we'll call on you. And I know Dennis has some slides, and Lori will be sharing those on his behalf. So with that, Dennis, welcome, and tell us a little bit about yourself, and then about Kiewit in general, and then the projects up here on the Olympic Peninsula that might be of value to our business owners.
Hey, thanks so much, Colleen. Yeah, I'm Dennis All, and it depends what project, Colleen. So I'm on this WSDOT project that Kiewit won here probably almost 2 years ago, although it was design build. We call it Coastal 29. So there's 29 different fish passage improvement projects for WSDOT as part of their overall program. They actually have the tribes and the EPA of orders the state to fix the old culverts that used to go underneath our state routes. And we're gonna build bridges and bypasses and help salmon survival and improvement out in your area. So it's actually, we call it Coastal 29. It's US 101, but there's different, we call them bundles. So we're doing this year, we're starting finally this summer, and it's a WSDOT project. I don't remember the exact contract amount. I don't think we don't have a final number yet, because WSDOT gets to approve our costs as we go along. But I mean, it might be $100 million worth of work. But it starts off in Grays Harbor County, I think, is the first 5 bundles, and then we're going to come up 101, and we're going to come into Clallam County, and we also Jefferson County. And I like that, because I'm actually, I keep telling them, I go, I'd even be to work on time if I can be into Jefferson County across the Hood Canal Bridge in about 15 minutes. But I'm driving here to King County, and I liked the labor talk earlier, right? So there's a lot of small businesses, and there's a lot more union labor here in the King County, Greater Seattle area, but out on the coast, I think, and you'll have to tell me, all you local people, it's different out there, isn't it? So, and I guess one of the main pushes, or the reason I wanted to talk today was about the small business goal, right? So we call it an MSV WBE goal. And on this job, I'm called the inclusion manager. Sometimes I'm called the diversity manager, but it just so happens that I'm also labor relations. And I think I stick around maybe because I don't have that many people fighting for my job, but I actually love it. So it's connecting small businesses to prime contractors, us, and our subcontractors are bound to the same. The goal is 26%. So I could use small businesses, minority-owned businesses, women-owned businesses, veteran-owned businesses, and if you count in more than one of those buckets, I get a double count your dollar. So I'm really looking for female-owned companies, right, and minority-owned companies. If they happen to be a veteran, I can double, triple count, quadruple count. So I like you already, but I might like you 4 times as well. But I guess part of it.
So real quick, that I've got 15 questions from what you presented so far.
Yeah, you want to mute me pretty soon, Colleen. I tend to talk. I'd like to be here.
So the acronym you gave, MSWMBE or something, what is that?
So I'm looking for So I got to kind of do it. I got to use my finger. So minority-owned businesses, small businesses, women-owned businesses, veteran-owned businesses, and overall. So and it's actually, it's a voluntary goal, but WSDOT, it's not a voluntary goal. We did the viaduct demolition here in Seattle with the same goal. And I think I got to remember the numbers. So it's 10% minority, 6% women, 5% small. Veteran might be
Go a little
low.
slower. I want to write them down.
So
Say that again.
MSVWB is also minority,
Uh-huh.
small,
Yeah.
veteran, and,
Yep.
and WBE, Women Business Enterprises,
Yes.
MSVWBE. So I'm looking for all those type of small, they're all small businesses, but then there's subcategories within that, right?
But what are your percentages for each again?
So it should add up to 26. So let's kind of do it. So,
Okay.
so minority, I'm pretty sure is 10%. Women,
Uh-huh.
6%.
Uh-huh.
Small, 5%.
Okay.
I'm getting closer. So our veterans, maybe the other 5. I don't know if that gets me to 26 or not. But,
Okay.
close. And I am a business guy, but not while I'm talking. I run out of fingers and hands.
So, and that's just a goal. It's not a requirement. I know sometimes when you use WSDOT funding, there are requirements that you have to meet.
Correct. And there's some more work coming, more fish passage work on the peninsula under other WSDOT contracts. And they have small and veteran-owned goals that are, they call them required. They have another term. They are mandatory, right? So there's a 5% small business goal on some of these other fish passages, and 2 or 3%, depending on which job it is, veteran, right? So, and I like the idea. We all want to hire veterans, but I'm working with WSDOT to be able to identify the veteran-owned firms, more easily, right? They're not all in that Washington directory that I like to use.
I've heard stories in the past about, from like county as an example, that Mary Peterson, who runs their program for the small business requirements, and she shared that that they would get some federal funding for some of their projects, and there were no and they have set-asides for these different categories, primarily minority and veteran and women-owned businesses, and they could not, the contractors like Brook and Brook or whoever it might be, were not able to find anyone locally. And so they would have to find a company over in the I-5 corridor. And one time I think it was veteran owned, and it was 7% requirement. And so the business had to hire this company that was a safety consulting firm. And they only came out one time, and they got something like $270,000 as part of the contract because of the requirement for the set aside. And there was just no veteran owned. And I think they have to be certified. Is that right? They have to be certified as veteran or women owned or small business.
Correct. So they're they use they call it the WEBS directory, Washington Electronic Business Solutions, right? And then the veterans need to be domiciled in Washington State, which I mean that's a good thing, right? We want Washington veteran-owned firms to be there, although it seems like you're in the U.S. Army. But every job though is different. I mean, if there is federal money, there'll be mandatory goals that Federal Highway Administration will push down to WSDOT. But on these fish passages, this is a WSDOT issue, right? So most of these are Washington State funded, right? So they're slightly different. That's why it's a target, right? It's a goal. It's not a mandatory requirement on this fish passage job I'm going to talk about today. But from WSDOT's point of view, I started to talk about the viaduct, which had the same 26% goal. They call it voluntary. I met 25 times in a calendar year with WSDOT to talk about our progress toward the goal or the goals. I committed at bid day to 11%, but then at the end of the day, I made almost 22%, not quite to their 26% goal, but I'm actually pretty proud of doubling that goal and taking the original 10.5 million to almost 25 million of MSV WBE. And I want to do something similar out on the coast, but I think you're right, Colleen. It's finding firms that are out there that are small, veteran-owned, woman-owned, minority-owned. And hopefully that's kind of what this is about. Maybe you can help me find some of those firms, right?
Yeah, well, I think one exceptional resource for you will be our new procurement technical assistance counselor, Rebecca Miller. This has been such a issue for us out here, watching all this money, including not just state money, but city and county and school district funds that come from local taxpayers, and it just being shipped out of our area, and it really negatively impacts our economy. And so we found in the PTAC, Washington PTAC did a study for us, and they found during a 10-year period, they had only supported 3 businesses in Clallam or Jefferson counties. And so with that, Congressman Kilmer said, okay, yeah, you've been complaining. I understand the situation, the issue, and I'll advocate for the Department of Logistical, DLA, the Defense Logistics Agency, to expand their program. And so he was successful in doing that, and we applied and got, the funding for it. So now we have a full-time person, Rebecca, which I understand you've been working with her, but she is going to be trying to reach out to businesses. And one of the biggest things is I understand that large businesses have certain things they like to do, like Kiewit. They want to do, like, if it's trucking or whatever that is, and they don't want to subcontract that. So what areas for these covert passages would you consider subcontracting to try to reach that 26% goal for businesses in Clallam, Jefferson, Grays Harbor?
Glad you asked that question, Colleen. It's a good question. And I've just met Rebecca. She's great. She's helped get this set up. And I think this partnership is good. I work with other PTACs, right? And also talking to Rebecca Miller and Leslie Miller, and I think she's in Thurston County. And I'll be at Tacoma Convention Center with Washington PTAC's big event. So, but I have a list here. So, and basically, I like the idea of identifying small businesses in that area, because if you're not traveling as far from over here and they're busy over here, I got to have the low, best value, I call it, rather than low cost subcontractor, because there's value in not only having a low price, but if you're local out there and you're helping me toward my goals, I mean, that has value, and a big value to WSDOT. But here's a list, and I don't know if when I get done talking here, if I ever come up for air, I don't know if Rebecca has that one slide, but I'm looking at my Coastal 29 fish bundle, and I'm looking for, here's my subcontractor list. So there's barriers, there's crane rentals, there's drilling, there's guardrail, there's asphalt. I need, here we go. Yeah, so I don't have to, but I'm glad you're showing me that, but I'm reading off that out. Logging, so there's reinforcing bar, striping, there's pile driving, dewatering. So to me, if you can do any of these things on this list, and suppliers too, right? So I mean, your local suppliers, even your hardware stores, or if you can provide me anything in any of these areas, if I can find it, and especially that local trucking, right? I don't really want, I mean, I'm glad we're talking local. I don't really want to bring my Seattle-based truckers. I mean, I'm a lot, and if I want you a day here and a day there, I know everybody wants to work every day, but I don't want to bring them from here if I don't have to, right? So finding companies locally in Jefferson County, Clallam County, any place on the peninsula, on the Olympic Peninsula, that do the things you see on this list. That's what I'm looking for. So and just so you know, Colleen, Rebecca's already hit me up, and I don't have a date yet for April, but I want to come out there in person and kind of do this and run through this presentation for the people I've missed today. But that's kind of my idea, because we looked in the other thing we call it the OMWB directory, the Office of Minority and Women Business Enterprises. Yeah. If you sort on and I really like that directory, and you sort on your counties out there, there is not very many companies.
I know. That several of them are duplicates.
Yeah.
So there's like a total of 10, I think, between the two, Jefferson and Clallam, or maybe it's 12, but it's not many at all. And that's one of the things Rebecca's working on, is getting more people certified as OMWBE. So that's the Office of Minority Women Business Enterprises.
Yeah, so that's a great directory. I find people in the federal directory. The SBA has a dynamic small business search directory. And it depends. If I'm chasing federal work, I'll look at that directory, but just identifying them. That's why I think this is so important to come here today. And I like the fact that, and I'm looking for small businesses, owner operators, but I want to get them certified. That'll help these small businesses, right? If we see them in OMWB, that's going to help you get work, because whether it's WSDOT or over here at Sound Transit, or if the Navy or the Army Corps does work out there, or these little local agencies, they're going to want these goals, and they want people to be certified, right? Because they're, in the past, there's been, some people that take advantage of the system, but I really want to identify small businesses that are out there. And like when I went and did a deal at Ocean Shores with the Quinault tribe, I found a tribal member, and Matt will like this. So he was a 302 operator, but he's starting his own business, and I carved out a little spot for him. And to me, that as a tribal member, he knows the people, he knows the land. His background is in loader operator. I don't know who he's worked for, but I wanted some more of those success stories. So if you want to go through my slides, I mean, mostly it's pretty pictures, but I'm really I want to talk about that, but keep thinking in the back of your mind that list there. So
and we'll put that list, if anybody wants it. Well, actually, Lori, if you could put that list into the chat. Oh, I don't know if it's part of but we'll put these slides up on our website as well, so that if anybody wants to get that. But I did have questions about that list. Like, Lori, can you go back to that, or is that a different?
I don't think it's part of this PowerPoint. But
it's not part of this one. And we could go to that afterwards if you want. But so there were a bunch of those in there that like lumber lagging. We obviously have people that are in the timber industry out here. What is permanent material suppliers lumber lagging? What does that mean?
Yeah, so and maybe Matt could talk to that, but any of these jobs where I'm doing, temporary or pile driving or shoring, where you're kind of holding back, you're working on the road, you can't have the hillside, sliding down onto the road, onto 101, right? We're going to impact traffic enough. We don't need it to be any worse. So that's any kind of form building. We're doing concrete, right? And it's kind of hard sometimes to find small businesses that are in those directories that supply that stuff. But on a federal job, it's a little, the definition of small business is a little more lenient. But I don't want to discourage any of those local businesses that supply that stuff. If you have the right price and you're close, and we like to think we plan well, but you're going to get out there and you're going to find things at the last second you need or go by. And that's where the local companies are going to be so valuable.
Do you get credit for, let's say it is a veteran-owned business or a woman-owned business, and they have not yet been quote unquote certified with Rebecca yet and gone through the process? Do you still count them towards the 26% or no?
No, I want them in that directory just as soon as we can. Right? So
and how long does that take?
And that's a good question, because I like it. When I went down to Ocean Shores and did the outreach with the tribe, and I had Yolanda Brooks from WSDOT there, and she was talking to, one of the tribal owned small business, he was asking those kind of questions, and she was able to pick up the phone and call the director of OMWBE and find out. So sometimes it can take 6 weeks, a couple months. But in this webs directory, and when I come down, or I want to, maybe Rebecca could give us that one is a self-certification. So those are the smaller, somebody that does less than $7 million a year, and there's another micro small is 3 million. So that one, I think you can get into that directory more quickly. And
hey, I'll tell you what, around here, 3 million is a large business.
Yeah, yeah.
We don't, we just, all of our large employers are governments or government tribes or school districts. A third of our employees are government employees in our county, and the rest, I mean, we go from larger governments, and then we've just got a handful. In the top 100 employers, we have 10 that are private companies. And then there's, of course, the retail chains that employ people, the Safeways, the Home Depots, those kind of things. But yeah, we are by and large just tiny companies that have 0, 1, 2, maybe 3 employees. And that's, 98% of our workforce out here, our labor market.
No, that's so I think that's my advice. So I'm glad you asked that. So Rebecca Miller and I let's first, the easiest and quickest way, let's get into that WEBS directory. Washington Electronic Business Solutions is the acronym WEBS. And
We'll look for the link. Yeah, and put it in the chat.
We'll find that. And it's the Washington State Department of Enterprise Services sponsors it. I don't like their directory because it's hard for me to search, but that's the easiest one to get into. If they can certify themselves, self-certify as small based on those annual revenues, and if they fit any of those other veteran or minority, and then we'll get them in that directory first, and then also get in that Washington State OMWB directory. That one will take longer, but if you're in there, you're golden, right? If you're a woman-owned small business, or you could just be a small business, even Caucasian-owned small businesses. I need more people in there because there's small business goals on every one of these jobs. So, I mean, it's kind of two things. I need to hire you, but I also want to be able to count your participation, right? Because I need both of those things to happen. So,
hey, Dennis, this is Rebecca, and I have terrible bandwidth at my house. So thank you so much for coming in this morning. What about, because I'm still learning all of this hub zone, because we are, I mean, does that factor into it at all?
It does on the federal work, right? So I know there's a lot of different rules, but that's why they asked me, and the engineers I work with, it drives them crazy. They want a yes or a no, or they're mathematicians, they want an answer. I go, well, it depends. And hub zone is a federal term. So if I get Department of Defense money, and I think was it Army Corps, I don't know who did like the Elwood Dam, right? So if that's Army Corps of Engineers work, they'll have service disabled veterans, hub zone, and there should be some hub zone companies out there, right? Because it's historically underutilized business.
Right.
Zone.
Our entire county is considered a hub zone.
Yeah. And so that's the third one. So let's get in Washington WEBS, let's get in the Washington State OMWBE, and let's also get in the US SBA's directory, that dynamic small business search. And then you'll count toward my federal goals when I have when I'm on a Department of Defense contract. So not to confuse you, but that's why you come to me, because I work with this every day. So
yeah, well, and Rebecca can help the businesses out here get set up. So she's got a lot of work to do, because we've not done any of the work for decades. We've just let all the work go to companies outside of our area.
No,
there's a few that have been engaged, but not many at all.
Yeah, and I want to work with you and with Rebecca, and I'm kind of planning. I don't know if you can see me on the screen, but this white hair. I don't think I'm that old, but I've been doing this almost 50 years now, and I want to do it. I don't want to do it when I retire. I'm going to do it for my couch in Kingston, but I'm going to be able to. I'm going to be the inclusion manager while we're doing all these fish bundles. I'm going to work a couple more years, and then some of these consultants do pretty well too. So you're going to have me for a while, I hope.
So, we've got a lot of people that are marketing, or then also we've got someone on here today that runs a hotel. Can a hotel be considered an OMWBE? And
I think they might, the average annual revenue threshold might get you, but in the federal system, the SBA has a better job. They use I don't know, it's kind of a lot, I won't get into it, but they call them NAICS codes. There's a table of size standards, right? If you know that. So real contractors, what I call, like concrete contractors, like Matt knows, and concrete foundations, pile driving, steel erection, those kind of things. Their size is determined on average annual revenue. But other guys like lumber suppliers, hardware stores, they should be judged, and the federal government judges them, SBA judges them on number of people. Sometimes it's 200 employees, less than 500 employees.
500,
So
yeah.
So you're a pretty big company. If you have 499 employees, right? In the federal world, you're called small, right? But why would I
Right.
not want to use local? And yeah, when I get out there and I have crews that need to stay over there, we're going to use local businesses, and whether or not they're small, I'm going to use you if you have the right price and you're local. But I like you even better when I can count you toward my goal.
So, and as a subcontractor, do they need to get a bond?
We do that as a case by case, and we kind of know it's hard for them to bond, right? So we kind of
Right.
have, Kiewit has our own bonding system, and I don't think I have any of my bosses on here. So we're supposed to say, oh yes, they're supposed to get a bond, but if they can't get one or the cost is prohibitive, we can waive the bond on a case by case, and we'll talk to you, and we kind of have our own, where we kind of carry ourselves. We're big, right? You asked me that earlier. So Kiewit's been around 125 years, and we are large, and we're out of Omaha, but I work for the Kiewit Bridge and Marine District, and we are Pacific Northwest based, right? I spent my whole career and a lot on fish passages, right? On the Columbia River dams, and now these fish passages. We're at Mud Mountain Dam up here out of Seattle, right? And so to me, I'm local, we're local, and we've had a presence in the Pacific Northwest for, I can only speak for the last 50 years, but we're a good company. We're here, and we get it, right? It's not about just
Right.
us. We think we can do everything, right? But you saw that list. I'll subcontract any of those things, and the law requires us to carve off pieces. I have more Caterpillar earth moving equipment than anyone in North America, but part of the law says I need to carve off pieces for small businesses, and you can, if you learn how to do Kiewit's safety, Kiewit's quality, we plan the plan, Colleen. We are a good mentor, right? So if you can get on with the right price and the best value, you can learn a lot just being on one of our projects, right? So I need to bring along some small businesses that I find
Yeah.
out.
I've talked to a couple insurance brokers that help companies get bonds, and they were saying that how they explained it was, if you have to have at least 50% of the amount of your contract within the last 3 years, and if you don't have that, you can't get a bond. And then if you, from a competition standpoint, if you are if you're competing with a larger business that has lots of history doing this, you are at a disadvantage by up to 5.5% of the project cost, because if as a new business, they'll charge you as much as 6% of the project cost for a bond. And as a existing business that has been doing this work for a long time, it's only 0.5%, as low as 0.5%. So right there, you could be at a 5.5% disadvantage. And, how can you compete when typically the bids are within just a few percentage points and you're already at a huge disadvantage?
Yeah, that's true, Colleen, and that's an issue. But if you are able to bond, we want you to put the bond premium in your price to me, and if I award you a subcontract, we'll reimburse you for that, right? As part of your price. So,
Okay.
And I've gone to a lot of these. We used to go out with the WSDOT to their bonding and education program, and that was kind of one of them. When you give me a bid, make sure you include all those costs in your price to me. And then it's up to me to get my estimators. Let's not just look at the low cost price. Let's factor in, hey, this is a woman-owned small business. This is a minority-owned small business. This is a veteran small business. There's value in that. So if you can get down there within a couple percent, 1, 2, 3, 5%, I'll say, and we do a board, right? So here's my low bidder. Here's my low bidder that's a small business. Will we spend an extra 5? And I don't want to say 10%, but we will spend money to make goals, right? So because we understand that, and it's part of helping small businesses grow, and so you're out there the next time, right? So the small business that are going to help me on this job, because there's going to be more fish patches, whether it's Kitsap County or out there, right? So there's going to be work out there for the next 5 years, maybe, and longer, right? So
Yeah, right.
So do you want to click through my pictures real quick, or what do you want to do now?
Yeah,
Lori,
Lori, go ahead. There's 17 of them, and we've been talking for half an hour, so
Yeah,
I
and
should
gotta
let
jump.
Dennis
Yeah,
do
yeah,
his presentation.
yeah. So basically, these are just, we went to WSDOT actually two years ago. So I think we were selected on this job January 2021, and this is kind of the before pictures, right? So you see these existing culverts, right? And the fish can't, these fish can't get through. Those, they're blocked, right? And we need to help the salmon survive and migrate up the stream. So and we look at every different spot, and we look at a spot like this, and how can we make this passage better, right? And so we have environmental people, we have fish habitat people, we're going to engage the tribes, right? I mean, it's their country, it's their land, it's their, and so here's one we did over here on this side. I think this is either this, we had one called California Creek and another one called Trafton Creek. So we turned in a little, this is probably a culvert under a state route. It was just a 36-inch pipe. But here we converted that into a bridge, and look how much wider it is. And actually, on purpose, we do some of that woody debris at the bottom, right? So the fish, and I don't know that stuff, and I don't want to pretend like I know fish habitat, but here's kind of where we're at up here, and we're getting close to your area. If you look at that bundle 2 and bundle 3, I mean, I don't know my county lines, but you probably do. But I think we're starting bundle 1 kind of more Grays Harbor this summer, right? But this is going to be, I think we go 3 or 4 years. So, and we're going to kind of march up 101 till we get closer to Clallam County. So I got to check again, and the next time I come out in April, I'll know more of the timeline, and I'll bring in some estimators. But I mean, look at this land. I mean, I'm looking forward just to getting out there, right, and meeting the people. And I mean, and I just drove back from the Oregon coast and purposely came back this way, went through Astoria and drove up 101 all the way to home. So this is kind of the design where we go in and we're going to show, how we get, underneath or around or get the best passage through these existing state routes. And that's what the EPA told WSDOT. Hey, you have hindered fish, the surviving fish and to help spawning. You got to restore the fish populations, and so we're working with designers and environmental people to figure out the best way to be able to get these fish back to where their original breeding grounds were and to get back from the sea. So I can't really speak to this, but it's talking to the local property owners and the tribes and doing what's best for the fish and the residents and employing the small businesses that you're going to help introduce me to. So and because we have a marketing group, and I mean, part of these pictures and the fact that we've done a couple of these fish passages along the I-5 corridor, we did something on at Joint Base Lewis McCord, and that's part of the reason why. And then you see all that. So if you're a rock supplier or an earthworks guy, and Matt will know from the laborers 252. I saw, and Darren, the head guy at 302, he lives in Port Angeles, so he's going to be watching me. But I know him well enough where we want to get union subcontractors. But if you're not union and you're small and minority, we want to be able to work with you on a project agreement. And these kind of precast things and cranes, we like to do some of this stuff, but we're going to need local labor, local small businesses. That's probably a local truck, and I just think there's opportunities for a lot of you, and that's a temporary bridge. We're gonna have to employ some of these, right, while we're working on a fish passage or driving pilot or building a new bridge. This is a temporary bridge that we put in to keep traffic moving. So and I'm going to apologize ahead of time, because I know, especially this summer when we're there, 101 can be challenging enough with all the campers, but we're going to do our best to keep traffic moving. But the main goal is to help fish survive and improve their survival rates and be able to get the populations back where they once were. So more than anything, I like to do this just because it's pretty pictures. And sorry, I dominated the. Thanks for clicking through, right? And so I want to do it in person, and I think, and I haven't. Rebecca hasn't pinned me down yet on a timing, but I want to meet you, Colleen, and everybody else on this call. I mean, you want to learn more, and I'll bring out some of the estimators because we need to bid this thing. It's not all priced, right? We have our initial price and our markups, but these first bundles we had to price, and WSDOT told us, they go, you know, you haven't done well enough on small and minority owned businesses. You need to do better. And one of my hey, well, we got to price that in there. So if it costs more to help small businesses get more work, maybe WSDOT will partner with us, right? It's kind of, usually we're judged on it. If we don't have the best value, low price, then we don't get selected. But I'm thinking we need to do a combination on this job where we can give them the best product at the right price and help small businesses from your area too. So I really appreciate you inviting me. Sorry I go on like this, but I'm looking forward to coming out and seeing everybody in person, and I can answer more of your questions then.
Oh, no, this is your time to share with everybody. This is just great, Dennis. We really appreciate it. So yeah, we just on Monday, Steve Rourke from WSDOT, the Olympic Region Administrator, was presenting to our county commissioners, and I know Nathan West, the city manager, was there, Port Angeles, and Rebecca was there. She wants to put on a town hall because people are really concerned about how all of this construction is going to be affecting our ability to do commerce. And whether it's, you know, they're talking about the Hood Canal Bridge being closed 4 weekends in a row, and they're talking about putting in 3, and I've heard as many as 5 roundabouts between Squim and the Hood Canal Bridge, and each one of those is supposed to slow up traffic 4 to 7 minutes. You know, it's just a 1-lane roundabout. It's going to be devastating for our community, and I mean, it's going to be terrible when it's happening. The Fish Passage, especially those that are right in Port Angeles, but and you know, estimates of 2-hour commute from Squim to Port Angeles, that kind of thing, for a couple years on and off. And that's just going to be really tough. And I think the mood of our community is going to turn a little bit sour if we're having to deal with that. So I really applaud our Clallam Transit and other folks that are trying to figure out solutions well beforehand. But I think since your company is part of the, obviously, construction program as the general contractor, having you involved in those conversations and talking about potential solutions that you've seen elsewhere would really be of value. So with that, I know we have some questions in the chat, and Lori put the slide deck in the into the chat, and also the outreach pamphlet. That right, Lori? That's the list of the types of businesses.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
So
and I'll
thank
say,
you.
Lori and I tomorrow night are attending the NPBA, North Peninsula Builders Association membership meeting, and I will take that flyer and kind of pass it out to people. I think my biggest ask for everybody on this call this morning is, if you know contractors, to send them my way, and we will work on getting them registered, start getting word out, and just building up that network. So spread the word as much as you can.
Yeah, rmiller@clallam.org. Thanks, Rebecca. Another thing is, do you use, I bet Kiewit has their own online system, but do you use Bidders Exchange ever or at all?
I mean, I got to remember, and I should know this, but we have our own system, and now I don't have the purchasing guys with me, but it escapes me right now, but I'll find that out for you. Then so that's it. And we do have our own small business database, and I'm kind of old school. Like, I'll be at Tacoma Convention Center tomorrow to PTAX, the Alliance Northwest big event, right? And I still use a subcontractor form, like old school, right? Where you get, what do you do? What's your name? How do I get a hold of you? And then actually, and I don't know, maybe Lori doesn't have it, maybe Rebecca has it. We have an event, and it's a long ways to go for coffee. I mean, I like to do this virtually, but we'll be in Aberdeen Tuesday, the 21st at a outreach event similar to with this same presentation, and we're meeting people down there. But that's why I want to do it up in Port Angeles or somewhere closer to where you're at. We'll do that sometime in April, probably later in April. I'm kind of busy doing some other projects too.
So how does it work? Are you a signatory to certain unions where you can only hire union contractors for certain things?
Yeah, and I see, and I do like the fact that when I saw Matt Smith on there, and you want to, I know is right. Their training center right by my house in Kingston, so I know you can get laborers in the apprenticeship program out of there. So yeah, we're signatory with the heavy highway trade. So Kiewit is signatory, the Pacific Northwest, Oregon, Washington, certainly in Western Washington with the laborers. You see them on here, the carpenters, the operating engineers, the cement masons, and we do project agreements with the iron workers. So it's all those, and then there's language in there where I'm required to hire other small, even on a single project agreement, somebody that isn't ordinarily signatory with the union, they want me to sign a single project agreement. But I think, and I don't want to speak for the laborers, but I think we could work through that, right? And there's a way to, I mean, if you got a 1 or 2 or an owner operator, maybe there's something we could do because I got to get small businesses too. So, I just, I want to use union companies, but I kind of don't want the, it should be for the workers. If it goes into a pension fund that they don't get vested in, that's a little unfortunate, right? But maybe there's a way we can do, or if they get in and like it, there's more opportunities. And I'm telling you, I was with an iron worker guy who retired, and I wish I had his pension, right? I think he's making more in retirement than I am working. But I think I hear things are a little different out in your.
Yeah, I wish I could convince some of the union folks to start their own business out here and then grow that locally rather than, pull our folks there, create the business here, and maybe we can even get in a training center, apprenticeship training center out here, rather than it all happening. Because right now with the CITC, the Construction Industry Training Center, they're the closest one for non-labor, non-union folks is in Puyallup, and that's just not functional. So I'd love to see more out here.
Yeah, and I don't want to limit them, but the 252 laborers, we're talking about this, but even you get a lot of the women-owned small businesses that do like land. I mean, there's landscaping, almost every job, environmental control, flagging. There's some industries where, and I think woman-owned, or if you're minority-owned, you fit a couple of those categories. I mean, it's scary, but you're out there, a startup company that fits those things, and some of them got their training through the unions, and if they have their own company, I mean, that's win-win. They're hiring union labor, they're getting small businesses or women-owned businesses, and I think that's a way for us all to be successful. I like that idea.
Yeah, my husband's a non-union general contractor. I'm a veteran. I'm a woman. I live in a hub zone. I, years ago thought about doing something in that space, but couldn't get any help from the PTAC in Kitsap County. And so ended up anyway, becoming an employee, taking a different job. But yeah, I've gone through the process trying to figure out, make my husband be an employee of mine.
Yeah, no, I like
boss him around.
Don't give up on that, Colleen. You get mad enough, maybe there's get you certified. So, all right, yeah. I guess I'll have more later. I can't wait to get out there. I mean, if there's any questions, you can read them off to me. But I noticed I missed a call from a tugboat guy I got to talk to here in a minute. For
okay.
I do a few other things that he's Stephen. I wanted to pick up a barge, and I gotta make a few calls. But
okay.
Go ahead. But is there any other questions?
You need to jump off. Does anybody? I know Eric Marks just jumped on, and we can give him some of the slides that you provided. He was looking at starting up a local business, actually. But so could someone? Do you look at I don't know, like say if you were gonna hire flagging or something like that, do you have to have like X many years of experience, or do you hire some startup businesses?
Yeah, it helps to have some experience. It's hard to come on a giant Kiewit job as your first job, right? But you got to
Sure.
start. So we all started somewhere. I think 130 years ago, Kiewit was a bricklaying company in Omaha. They've grown into this, and maybe not worldwide, but we're not the biggest, but we want to be the best in North America. But we're huge, and we've been around a lot of years. But you got to get started somewhere. So so there's traffic control supervisors. So there is some certifications, but I mean, through the laborers, they do the training, right? And if we can get you on a job and you kind of work with that, but we have to be careful too, because Washington will watch. I can't help them too much. It does not seem crazy, but there's something called a commercially useful function. So I think what they guard against is the prime actually doing the work and trying to take the credit, right? And that's not what we want. We want the small
Sure.
businesses to manage and run their own scope, right? And we call it the smell them test. They have to supervise their own work. They have to manage their own work. We want them to own or lease their own equipment, provide and pay their own labor, and buy their own materials.
Sure, sure.
And maybe I got to jump off now. My
Okay.
other phone's starting to ring too. But
All right.
are you
Well,
okay
thanks
with
so
that?
much for joining us. And Dennis, would you put your email in the chat? Or I know Rebecca has it.
Can
But so
Rebecca
if
just
anybody-
kind of distribute it to everybody on the call?
Sure.
Right, and then I'm
Sure.
available email and I'll take calls, but I promise to, I get a little overcommitted. I like doing that, but that's what keeps employed.
So, and the first job that you guys are doing in Clallam County is going to start when? Is it 2024, I think?
I think so, and I got to look at the dates, right? Because that you saw that one slide, I had bundle one. So we are starting in Grays Harbor County, and then we're moving up. So I think it's next. I mean, literally, we've been designing and planning for 2 years. We haven't, I've been talking about this and been doing outreaches, but and I always say, when are we ever going to get to the work? But this summer we're going to start, but we're going to screw up Grays Harbor County before we come up and mess with your 101. But no, we understand that, right? We have a lot of experience, and we got to keep the roads open, but it's challenging out there, isn't it?
Yeah, especially the creek that goes under the hotel. I don't know how you're going to daylight that one.
I work with all kinds of really smart engineers, and they're literally brilliant, right? And so anyway, we'll give it a lot of thought, right, and do the best we can.
Okay. Hey, thanks so much, Dennis. We'll let you get back to your job.
Yeah, my other part, and I love it all, right? So, all right, hey, thanks again for having me. I really appreciate it.
Okay, thanks, Dennis. Bye-bye. So Rebecca just put Dennis's email in the chat, but Rebecca is you can consider her a free expert consultant for you in this space that she serves Clallam and Jefferson counties. And it's not just for Kiewit and state funded projects or federally funded projects. It's also if the school districts are building a school, or the libraries, or the port, or, there's so many different small projects that occur throughout our county. And if the next another step that all small businesses should be doing if they're interested in competing in this space is to join the MRSC small business roster, because that's where if you go on there and you say, I'm in Clallam County and here's what I do, whatever it might be, it could be marketing, it could be so it's professional services, which includes engineering, architectural services, and surveying. And then there's public works providers, that's all the construction space. And then there's personal services, which is marketing or anything not in that engineering architectural space. And that you will receive notifications about different entities within our county that are looking for small contractors, because if it's a contract below, typically it's $350,000, then the local government can go to, they can go to that small business roster and put it out that way and get bids back directly that way, which is then, they don't have to go through the formal, much more difficult RFP process that requires a selection committee. And I've done that a couple times, and it's not fun and easy. It's a lot of work, as people like Matt and Calvin and others could tell you. So, and now I just was told by Mary Peterson, who runs the small business set aside programs for Clallam County road department jobs, that they are now going to be joining MRSC's small business roster, so that small works roster, I'm sorry, so that people can do that, go through that process to find out about different opportunities with our county government. And Rebecca, please take it away. She's more knowledgeable in this space than I am. So
Hardly. But anyway, no, I just wanted to mention two things. We've got a lot of, local government staff on this call right now. We are doing a free MRSC training in May, and I think you've already gotten notification of that. And then on the 18th, I'm doing what they call Meet the Agencies. So I've invited 5 local governments. I've got City of Port Angeles.
and that's
Fallon
May
County.
18th, right?
Yes, May 18th. So City of Port Angeles, PUD, Clallam County, Jefferson County, and Port Angeles School District. Each one of them is sending a representative to meet with local contractors, so that the local contractors learn about how to bid on projects. So that's something great coming up. Colleen was, mentioning some of the things that people can, the contracts, this is the fascinating, fun part of my business. I got a contract for Army Corps of Engineers to a business in Sequim, that they go out and their dogs are trained to sniff out human remains. They're not cadaver dogs, these are human remains. So a dog can actually clear an acre on a good windy day in about 5 minutes. And I think they're looking at these kinds of things, particularly for native burial sites and, that kind of thing, but far less invasive than heavy machinery and that kind of thing. I never knew that such a business existed. So if you've got a small business and are interested in looking to see whether or not there might be government contracts for that, come see me, and we'll start looking around to see what federal, local, or state contracts are out there.
Great. Thank you, Rebecca. Really appreciate that. So I think we covered most of the questions and comments in the chat. Does anybody have anything more? And again, when Dennis, if you do have interest or know of a business that should or could be interested, let Rebecca know, because when Kiewit comes out here, again, some smaller businesses in Clallam County are not real happy with WSDOT for lumping all 29 of these culvert projects into one contract, because then there's only, a handful, if even that, of companies that are large enough that they could get a bond to do all 29 all at once, because there's, this is billions of dollars of work that's being done with all of these contracts, all these culverts. It's estimated to be $6 billion across our state, and a huge number of them are in Grays Harbor, Jefferson, and Clallam counties. So, but that's the way the state did it, looped them all together so that they just dealt with one contractor, but there are, and Rebecca spoke about the MRSC training, where there's things that a local government can do, and they will be, MRSC is the Municipal Research Service Center. They will be sharing what can be done in order to try to help your local small businesses compete. Things like supplemental bid criteria, evaluating what is the carbon emissions from mobilization, as an example, considering that, and also just knowledge of the local area, that kind of thing. So that is allowed, and things you can and should be doing prior to an RFP going out, and so that you can understand what their capabilities are, what their concerns are. So with that, does anybody have anything else they want to share? I don't see any more questions in the chat, so I think we will close it up for the morning. And thanks, Rebecca, so much for suggesting Dennis. And you'll be seeing more of him, I'm sure, especially if you have any interest in.
And tomorrow, because
oh,
I'm heading out to Northwest Alliance.
That's right. She'll definitely be seeing him tomorrow. There's a statewide, what do they call it? An expo that occurs every year where the prime contractors come together and they try to find these small businesses. So that that occurs annually, except during COVID. And so that's an opportunity where Rebecca can help you get ready for that, so that you can pitch to a bunch of different larger companies, especially if it's any kind of services. You could, you know, provide services all across the state.
Yeah, they've got over 750 people already coming, so it'll be a big one.
Great, good. All right, well, thank you, Rebecca, and we'll pass along our thanks to Dennis, and thanks for all your questions, everyone. And we'll get through this construction season. I'm afraid it might be kind of painful, but we'll try to add value so that we minimize that pain. All right, thanks, guys.